Christine, how are you and your family holding up?
A lot of praying, a lot of just leaning on each other in this moment and just taking it day by day. That's really all we can do right now. It's been hard. Every day is different. And really every second is different, which is something people need to understand. Grief is not one emotion, right? It's multiple emotions and they're all happening at the same time. And so it's just like 1 minute I can be I can be okay like this and I can talk about it. And then the next minute I'm breaking down in tears because it's a constant reminder, because if I'm being honest, we really just have not had time to fully grieve with everything that's going on.
This is your baby, and everyone must understand that. And Javon, I want to come to you because you're his friend. You were on the island on the 4th. You were on a different boat. Do you recall seeing him at all that day?
Yes, ma'am. I did see him when I was out there on the island.
Can you tell me what you saw? Does anything seem strange to you about the difference that people are saying of how he was separated from the group?
No, ma'am. I don't think that Nolan would say, "Hey, bro, I'm staying with this girl on the island. Y'all go ahead and go back," without even bringing it, like not even asking to get his phone back. You know what I mean? I don't think that any of that.
What makes you so sure about that? Because obviously you've been with him, you've spent a lot of time with him. Did you know him to be someone to leave his phone or even say, "You guys go without me"?
Never. I've never known Nolan to stay back while his friends leave. He's always been a guy where if he rode with you, he's going to come back with you. That's always how he's been every single time.
This friend of his, Tristan, also told ABC that video people have been talking about that was said to show some sort of altercation, it did not involve Nolan. He says it was actually him yelling in the video and that you and a family member were holding him back because he'd been in a fight. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am. We were calming Tristan down. In that video where he said, "Give me my effing phone back," it sounds like him. So I'm pretty sure that he was right on that. But
Javon, I'm so sorry to think about what you must be going through and thinking about what's happened to Nolan. You mentioned a phone. Tashima, a huge question so many people have is why he would have left his cell phone behind. And you say you were the person who actually went and retrieved that phone for the family. How'd you get your hands on the phone? Where was it?
That is correct. Christine called me and told me, "Hey, where are the boys? Nolan hasn't been heard from since such and such time. Where are your boys?" I said, "Well, Javon is with his girlfriend, and I just spoke with Jalen, and they are headed to downtown," which I was literally getting ready to get in the shower to go downtown as well. She said, "Well, Nolan hasn't been." So I instantly called with Christine on the phone, Javon. Javon said no, he hadn't seen Nolan since early on the island. And he was like, "What? Are y'all serious?" We was like, "Yes." And so Christine intervened in the conversation and said, "Nolan has not been heard from since he left the island." So Javon was like, "Well, that's when I seen it. I haven't seen it since then." Again, everybody goes their separate ways. So I then hang up from Javon because obviously there's nothing he can say to tell me anything. So then Jalen, I call him. Jalen did not answer the phone. Christine again is on the phone. Jalen did not answer the phone. LeBaron, he didn't answer the phone. I called LeBaron, which is their other friend, LeBaron Broomfield. He answered. He said, "Jalen is in the gas station. Hold on." So he said, "Hey, Jalen, Mom on the phone." So he was like, Jalen, "What's up, Mom? What's going on?" I was like, "Hey, have y'all heard from Nolan?" They said, "No, we have not heard from Nolan."
But where was the phone?
So I was like, "Well, okay." So that's when we started checking the phone. Well, for Christine, it said one place, but for them on Snapchat, it showed another place. So that's the place we went to. And it showed that everybody that was in the house, it was like a lot of people there. Like I'm not familiar with all the kids. I only know like one or two there. But it showed that the phone was at what a lot of people were at. So that's how we knew where to go to. We went there. They were all there. They were sitting there, lights off, watching TV.
Did they immediately give you the phone? Because knowing that phone was there.
It took about 15. They did. They gave me the phone, but it took about 15 minutes to get the phone. Because I even asked, I'm like, did y'all have to walk back to Horn Island to get the phone? Or like, where's the phone? Because it took so long when they said it was in, when Wyatt told me it was in his truck, it took him so long to get the phone back to me.
Christine,
So when they brought the phone back,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Tashima. I want to hear that.
when they brought the phone, after I said something about it, he was like, well, she's going to get it. I was like, who's going to get it? He's like, the girl's going to get it.
Nolan Wells was the only black person in his group that day. Everyone else with him was white. That is not an accusation, that is a documented fact, and it matters because it is the lens through which everything I am about to tell you has to be understood. This is not just a story about a missing phone. It's the story of what happens when the only black witness to a black boy's final hours steps forward and his account raises more questions than it answers. Tristan Shepherd said that he and his group of friends, which included Wells, had been drinking alcohol since late morning after multiple boats of friends arrived on the island for an outing meant as one last hurrah before returning to school or work. About 300 people, many of them former high school classmates, were gathered near them. 300 people on a remote, federally protected barrier island with no staff, no drinking water, no shelter, no facilities. And somewhere inside of that, Nolan Wells vanished. Here is the question we are sitting with today, and it is not the one most people are asking. The question is not whether the viral video shows Nolan arguing. The question is this: if the only black friend on that island, the one who publicly claimed the screaming voice in that video as his own, is telling the truth, then what actually sent Nolan to the water? And why does the evidence around his phone, his keys, and his body still not add up into a clean, single story? That is what we are digging into today. Now, the video. Let's start there, because the video is where everything broke open and where Tristan Shepherd stepped directly into the center of this story. After Nolan's body was recovered, a video recorded near the island on July 4th was widely circulated on social media. In that video, someone can be heard yelling as if in a heated argument. Attorney Ben Crump, who represents Wells' parents, said Wells is among a group of people standing on the island and can be heard on the video demanding his phone back. Crump said on the record, "You can hear an argument going where Nolan is saying, 'Give me my freaking phone, what are you freaking doing?'" That was the family's position, put in front of cameras at a press conference with Nolan's parents standing right there. But then Tristan Shepherd sat down with Good Morning America and said something that stopped the internet cold. He said it was actually him yelling in the video. Shepherd said he and the friend group that accompanied Wells on Independence Day have been wrongly accused of foul play. "That's me yelling," Shepherd said. The voice being attributed to a dead 18-year-old asking for his phone back in what sounded like fear. That voice, according to Shepherd, was his own. He stated the confrontation involved himself and another man over Shepherd's girlfriend. Rolling Stone reported that Shepherd's account has been corroborated by both his girlfriend and his uncle, both of whom were present on the island. That is meaningful. That is not just one person's word. Javen Williams, the other black friend in the group, challenged Crump's interpretation during an interview with TMZ. "That altercation, it sounds just like my other friend who got into another altercation on the boat," Williams said. "As he was in that altercation, I was trying to calm him down. They were trying to get him off the island, trying to get him back to land." Both Williams and Shepherd are black or biracial, not outsiders to Nolan's world, but people who went to that island with him and called him their brother. And they are now telling investigators and the press that the video everyone used as evidence of foul play was not Nolan. But here is where it gets complicated. Williams also said it's not like Wells to separate from the group he came with. He is clearing the video, saying the yelling wasn't Nolan, but in the same breath saying the idea of Nolan staying behind doesn't sit right with him either. That isn't the friend group closing ranks, it's a friend telling the truth as he saw it on both sides. Now, let's go to the phone, because this is where the case reveals something nobody can fully explain. Wells didn't make it back to the mainland, but his phone and car keys did. His mother used the Life 360 app to track it, and after a friend went to pick it up, she noticed some of his messages appeared to have been deleted. Rather than being recovered with his body, the the phone was allegedly found in the possession of one of the friends who had joined him on the island. The official account from the friend group is that Nolan chose to stay behind. He met a girl and was going to catch a different ride home. That is what Shepherd said on Good Morning America. He took a boat back from Horn Island in the late afternoon, and Wells stayed behind with a girl he had met that day, one he really did like. That is the explanation for why the boat left without Nolan. But here is the fracture in that story. Friends reportedly told investigators that Nolan chose to remain on Horn Island after speaking with a young woman and intended to catch another ride back. According to Crump, however, the young woman later said Nolan returned to the boat, directly contradicting the friend's account. Those two things cannot both be true, and no one has publicly resolved which one is correct. Nearly a month after Wells disappeared, many of the central questions about his final hours remain unanswered, including why he didn't return with his friends or have his phone with him. Then there is what Nolan's father experienced the night he went looking for answers. Elmore Wells said he had a difficult time retrieving his son's keys from one of the individuals in the friend group. He arrived at the house where Wells had left his vehicle, and when he asked for his son's keys, he says he was given the runaround. I said, "I'm Nolan's father. I'm here to get his keys so I can get his car," Elmore said. He was like, "I don't know, man." This is a father who does not yet know his son is dead, standing at a door asking for his son's keys, and the person on the other side is hesitating. That is not evidence of anything on its own, but it is a moment Nolan's father remembered clearly enough to describe at a press conference with the whole country watching. Back to the phone. The deletion of messages is a detail nobody in the official investigation has explained. According to Crump, Wells's friends took the phone with them when they left the island, and when the family got it back, messages had been deleted. Whether they were deleted intentionally, before or after the phone left the island, or by one person or several, none of that has been formally established by investigators, and none of it appears in any publicly available warrant or affidavit. What is established is that the phone came back without Nolan, and that something on it was gone. Investigators have specifically asked for original, unedited photos and videos taken on July 4th, particularly those depicting alleged altercations or containing images believed to include Nolan. The word unedited tells you investigators are at least aware that some existing footage may have been altered. The sheriff's office has urged anyone who was near the northwest tip of Horn Island to come forward with photos or video. There is also the Cito call. The caller stated the boat had, like, 7 passengers, and when asked about the well-being of those on board, said, yeah, everybody is on board. Cito says they did not tow the boat because the caller said the issue had resolved. The Mississippi Department of Marine Resources says the boat was actually towed 2.75 miles before resuming normal operations. That discrepancy tells you the official record of that evening is not airtight. We don't know exactly when that call was made relative to when Nolan chose to stay behind, or whether everybody referred to the boat's original group specifically. But the phrase, "everybody is on board," from a boat that left an island without the boy at the center of this case, sits heavy. Investigators have the GPS data and the call, and the investigation remains active. Here is where we stand at the halfway point. The only black friend in the group stepped forward and claimed the viral video's voice as his own, an account that has been corroborated. Williams, also black, agrees the voice isn't Nolan's but says it wasn't like Nolan to separate from the group. The girl Nolan allegedly stayed behind for says he came back to the boat. His phone made it home. He did not, and messages on that phone were deleted. His father could not get his son's keys without a fight. Then there are the 2 autopsies. The independent autopsy commissioned by the family, announced on July 22, ruled Nolan's cause and manner of death undetermined pending investigation. Results from the original autopsy by the Mississippi State Medical Examiner's Office were not yet available, and the independent pathologist could not rule out foul play. Weeks after Nolan's body was found floating face down near the island, that independent autopsy yielded no solid answers. And now this. Attorneys for the family released findings identifying a significant injury to the back of Wells's head. Jackson County investigators initially said they suspected drowning, but they are continuing the investigation, and the family has never accepted that conclusion. His father described him as an elite athlete who could swim, and the family is not accepting that Nolan drowned accidentally, Crump said. Whether the head injury is consistent with drowning, whether it occurred before or after he entered the water, whether it reflects a fall, a wave, a collision, or something else, those are forensic questions the official state autopsy has not yet answered publicly. In any active investigation, many details remain under wraps, especially when the medical examiner has not yet determined an official cause and manner of death. In Wells's case, neither has been determined. Shepherd came forward and cleared the video at personal risk, knowing the internet had already decided the story. But here's what he did not say. He did not say he saw Nolan get on a boat, or watched him swim away safely, or knows what happened after that boat pulled off. His story ends with Nolan still on that island. So the real question isn't whether Shepherd is telling the truth, it's what happened in the hours that nobody, not Shepherd, not Williams, not any of the 300 people on that island, has been able to account for. Now, the expert voice. Everything so far is what the evidence looks like on the surface. But what does it mean when a forensic pathologist opens a body and the throat is not there? The independent autopsy was performed by Dr. Roger Mitchell, a board-certified forensic pathologist and president of the National Medical Association, the oldest organization of black physicians in the United States. That matters as context. The family deliberately chose someone with no ties to Mississippi law enforcement, flying Wells's body to Washington, D.C. for the examination. Dr. Mitchell found two things that stopped everything cold. During a posterior head and neck dissection, he found a 12 by 8-inch focal area of red discoloration in the deep soft tissue overlaying the occipital bone, the back of the skull. The cause was unclear, with no lacerations of the overlying skin and no skull fractures. That discoloration sits in the deep soft tissue beneath the skin. Not a scrape or sunburn, but something that happened inside the tissue. Mitchell was careful in how he worded it. He is not saying Nolan was struck, only that the cause is unclear, and that decomposition can obscure bruising on the skin surface, especially in a second examination, meaning the picture he's seeing may be incomplete because of how long it had been and what the body went through before he received it. Then comes the second finding, perhaps the most significant detail in this case so far. When Wells's body arrived for the second autopsy, the throat, the trachea, the laryngeal cartilage, the thyroid horn, the hyoid bone, was not received with it. Based on his experience as a chief medical examiner, Mitchell assumed the original Mississippi pathologist had retained them, a common practice when there's concern about neck fractures or compression. There's an important qualifier here. Dr. Priya Banerjee, a Rhode Island-based forensic pathologist not involved in the case who reviewed the report, said it isn't unusual for doctors to retain some remains. She guessed the state was taking a closer look at the neck structures, since some pathologists keep structures for further analysis or preservation. So the retention itself is not automatically suspicious. Mitchell himself called it common practice. But there's a separate question, whether the family's independent pathologist should have had access to those structures before issuing findings. Only one of those two questions has been answered. In his report, Mitchell noted that because parts of the throat were missing, he cannot rule out injury to the neck as a contributor to or cause of death. The investigation will help determine whether Wells was alive when he entered the water, why he entered it, and why he could not get out. And that's where witness accounts, scene reconstruction, and physical evidence come into play. An autopsy alone rarely provides every answer. The strongest conclusions come from integrating medical findings with investigative evidence. The state autopsy has been completed but will not be released publicly. Instead, it goes directly to a Jackson County grand jury along with other evidence, without a public press conference, without release to the family, and without Dr. Mitchell reviewing it first. Crump said Mitchell believes the proper venue to interpret the toxicology results is before the grand jury, and that they hope the district attorney presents Mitchell there too, so all relevant information is heard. That is a request, not a guarantee. Here's something the family did to push back on the digital evidence specifically. Wells's parents and their attorneys met with Jackson County District Attorney Angel Myers McElrath on July 15th. They didn't learn new information, but agreed to a mutual inspection of Wells's cell phone by experts from each party, both sides looking at the same device, with their own experts present. That's a legal move. the family wanting to be in the room to see exactly what investigators see. Crump's legal team is also pursuing its own investigation. Forensic audio specialists are reviewing the complete CTO call, while ocean engineering experts are examining how Wells's body came to be recovered near the northwestern tip of Horn Island, asking whether the currents and geography actually support the official account of where and how his body was found. Others note the currents there can be notoriously rough, with the local coroner saying his office has received numerous drowning victims from Mississippi's barrier islands in recent years. That's real, but strong currents alone don't explain the phone, the keys, the deleted messages, the girl's contradicting account, or the discoloration at the back of his head. On the legal process, after the investigation concludes, Jackson County District Attorney Angel Myers McElrath will let a grand jury decide whether charges are warranted, standard procedure for deaths that are not natural deaths, which is how her office is treating this case. No charges have been filed, no one has been named a suspect, and no arrests have been made. As of early August 2026, authorities did not suspect foul play, but the family does not accept that. The autopsy doesn't support a clean conclusion in either direction, and the grand jury process has not concluded. What the family wants isn't a predetermined verdict. Nolan's mother, Christine Wansley, wrote on her own social media page, addressing people pushing back on the family's fight, "We are not asking for special treatment, we just want the truth. His father and I will not stop searching for the truth. We want that same respect that would be given to anybody else. And that's it. We just want answers. That same respect that would be given to anybody else." That line is the whole case in 8 words, because the real question underneath all of it is whether this family is being given the same standard of investigation, the same urgency, the same transparency that any family would receive anywhere in this country. The case has drawn speculation about the integrity of the official investigation, with the Wells family and Crump alleging possible racial bias. Public attention has been fueled by racial tensions in Mississippi and by the fact that Wells, who was black, disappeared at a mostly white gathering. That context matters, but it's worth naming clearly that its presence doesn't automatically mean racial malice, and it doesn't automatically mean accident either. It means the case must be examined with the same rigor every time by every institution involved. Elmore Wells has stood in front of cameras, held himself together, and pushed back on narratives while carrying something no parent should have to carry. "Our son should be in college right now," he said. "We should be receiving phone calls from him, but we can't. We just want the truth. We just want someone to be brave enough to stand up and give us the truth." He told GMA he taught his son, "If you go with 5, come back with 5. Nolan knew to stay with his group, so why would he split from it? "I don't know," Elmore said. Wells was set to return to Southwest Mississippi Community College this fall as a wide receiver on the football team. He was a month away from turning 19. Christine remembered her son as gentle and loving, someone able to make people around him feel welcomed and valued. At his July 20th funeral, she told mourners the family would keep fighting for answers, and in the days since has continued telling her growing social media audience that the family has so many questions. Here is where this case stands today. The state autopsy is complete but not publicly released, headed to a grand jury. The independent autopsy is undetermined, but found a significant injury to the back of the head. The throat structures were not received, so neck injury cannot be ruled out. The phone came back without Nolan, with messages deleted. A mutual forensic inspection has been agreed upon but not yet completed. The CTO call is under review, and the boat's GPS movements remain with investigators. The girl Nolan allegedly stayed behind for says he came back to the boat. The friend who claimed the viral video's voice as his own, corroborated, never actually saw Nolan board anything before he left the island. A newly completed independent analytical review of photographs, videos, GPS coordinates, and witness accounts concludes that the available evidence still leaves a material gap in the timeline between Wells's last corroborated sighting and the recovery of his body. That phrase, a material gap, may be the most important one in this entire case right now. Not a gap filled with theory, suspicion, or politically convenient conclusions in either direction. A gap filled with nothing. Until that gap is filled with the truth, Nolan Wells has not received the full weight of what his life was worth. Nolan Wells was a beloved son, teammate, and friend who went out to celebrate the 4th of July and never came home. His family deserves answers. They deserve the truth. Now that you've heard about the missing throat, the discoloration at the back of his head, the deleted messages, the phone that came home without him, and the girl who says he came back to the boat, what stands out to you most? Tell me in the comments, because this case is not over, not by a long way. We will keep following this, every update, every hearing, every grand jury development, until there are real answers for Nolan.